The Notre Dame Fighting Irish have a big-time quarterback battle that I make a prediction on, and discussing whether they need to spend a lot of money on receiver, defensive tackle, or both from the transfer portal. That's next here on the Portal Podcast.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal news. I'm your host, Brian Smith. Thank you for stopping in to get everything that you need to know about what's going on in the world of college football right here on the Portal Podcast. And today's show is brought to you by the 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for later on in the show when we talk about the Armada Team of the Week. The Fighting Irish have a very intriguing spring underway. You got three guys competing for the starting quarterback position. You've got multiple needs in the portal. At least that's the perception. I have a different take on that here in just a moment, but there is no doubt that the transfer portal for the Fighting Irish will be important. But again, we do start at the quarterback position. My prediction is one that is fluid. Two things. Number one, no way in the world, in any way, shape, or form, Marcus Freeman is going to give away anything at the end of spring. Zero chance. That's just his nature. He's a conservative guy with that stuff. You'll find out right before the first game when the Irish play Miami, maybe even the day of the game. That's just the way it is. With that being stated, there still needs to be some kind of movement because three guys aren't going to go into fall camp and stay in fall camp. This is where it gets really unique because every team, this isn't a Notre Dame situation, don't want their quarterbacks to transfer. They don't give a definite answer. Hey, this is where you are, etc. at the end of spring, unless it's just insanely obvious. And even last year, that wasn't a guarantee. The year before, they brought in a guy that had thrown for like 10,000 yards. Didn't matter. So what happens at the end of this spring? Does Angeli, Minchey, or Carr leave? I don't know. I doubt it because they all love the place. But at some point between spring and the end of fall camp, one of those three will leave. This is my prediction. Angeli will start against Miami, but there'll be two quarterbacks play. Whichever guy doesn't play will leave if he hasn't already. Maybe it's Minchey that doesn't make it. Maybe it's Carr. Maybe it's Angeli. Whatever the case is, my best guess is Kenny Minchey will be the player that leaves. I think CJ Carr is the future of the program. Prove me wrong based on everything that I've heard. We'll see. And I think even if Angeli doesn't win the job, my guess is he'll pick up his degree at the end of this next season and transfer to some other program where he can play maybe somewhere, because he's from back east in New Jersey. Maybe it's Connecticut. Maybe it's Syracuse. Maybe it's Rutgers. I don't know, but I think that's what will happen. Again, my prediction, CJ Carr eventually wins the job. I just don't know if it'll be ironclad and if everything will be as smooth as you'd like it to be, but this is the transfer portal era. There's no such thing as smooth. There's going to be a lot of trepidation about what guys should do, and their families are all going to have their own independent research. And by the way, this is just my guess. I don't have any intel on this because spring ball is just getting started in South Bend, but that's my prediction. I'm going with CJ Carr to win that job. Here's where it gets interesting as an overall view for the Irish. Let's say Minchey's the one that hits the portal. There are going to be teams out there looking for a QB, somebody like Georgia maybe. They all need to look at these opportunities. So Notre Dame's going to lose somebody, but will it be early enough for somebody like Georgia if it's right after spring, or will it be early next fall? Then teams really can't do anything with it because those guys don't know the playbook. That's something to think about. When these things happen, all these transfers really changes, not just your roster, but somebody else's as well. Now, do the Irish need to take another wide receiver? This is where it's fun. There's a lot of discussion about Notre Dame with so-called good recruiting at some spots, maybe receivers a little underwhelming. But did they hit enough in the portal to circumvent what they missed on? That's debatable. And every person has their own opinion, and that's fine. But here's why I think they're further ahead than most programs right now, even in the upper echelon outside of like Ohio State. Nobody has Jeremiah but them. But Notre Dame got Malachi Fields, 6'4", 220, played at Virginia, a team, let's be honest, it wasn't very good, but he still had over 100 receptions over the last 2 years. That's a lot. You bring him back. You got Jaden Greathouse. You got Faison. You even got Will Pauling, who was probably the best receiver at Wisconsin over the last couple of years overall, he's not even going to start more than likely. You're in a little better spot than what some other programs are. You got 𝐓𝐡𝐞 coming up the ranks, Micah Gilbert. Is Notre Dame really in that bad a spot at receiver? Let me pose it in a different way. If you are going out of fall camp and you haven't picked up anybody and there's been questions all the way through, Notre Dame's coaching staff deserves to get some blame. But I imagine if it's even remotely like that at the end of spring ball, they'll get somebody in the portal, even if it's just another good player, maybe a Matt guy, somebody to add. There aren't going to be a bunch of 5-star receivers in the portal, but they'll get somebody. More importantly, they're going to save their money for D tackle. That's coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But again, maybe it's Cam Williams, the sophomore out of Illinois who can fly. Maybe it's 𝐓𝐏 𝐏𝐶. Whatever the case may be, Notre Dame is still in a lot better spot at wide receiver than most schools. I mean, Jaden Greathouse was fantastic in the final 2 games for Notre Dame. He tore up Penn State and did a pretty good job against Ohio State too. I mean, he was pretty clutch, and that's one of the better secondaries in the country. You got him, you got Fields, they're both really proven. You got Faison, who's going to get single coverage all the time. Whoever wins the Notre Dame quarterback job is going to be thrown to some pretty good guys. And that doesn't even count the tight ends. Do not forget about Eli Raridan. I'm not going to go into their depth chart overall, but Notre Dame's in a better spot in the pass catching category than most teams. And here's the final asterisk. There is nobody that's covering Jeremiah Love when he goes out of the backfield that's a linebacker or a safety. There are some corners that can cover him, but he is going to be an even bigger threat, I think. It's year 2 for Mike Denbrock. So if they go to the portal for a receiver, I don't think they're going to spend a ton of money. It's got to be somebody that wants to be in South Bend so they can spend their money on the next position that we're going to talk about, and that's defensive tackle. I make no bones about it. Notre Dame needs at least one defensive tackle from the portal, preferably a big-time guy, and I explain why. There are some options, but I explain why next here on the Portal Podcast. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On College basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to unexpected upsets, these guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada clear-cut Team of the Week would be the Arkansas Razorbacks. Despite losing their first 5 SEC games, Coach Cal's Hogs fought their way through the most rugged conference in college basketball to not only make the tournament, but knock off back-to-back national champion and Hall of Fame coaches en route to the Sweet 16. They accomplished all of this without second leading scorer Boogie Fland for most of SEC play and without leading scorer and rebounder 𝐓𝐡𝐞 so far in the NCAA tournament. That is quite the accomplishment. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Arkansas Razorbacks have done. It's clear that our Team of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road and ahead with confidence, just like you can with the new all-Nissan Armada and all the Nissan outstanding vehicles. Take the Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. This show is also brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast, coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on each and every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. No question, Notre Dame needs another defensive tackle. They did get 2 in the winter transfer portal, and we'll talk about those in a second. But let me ask you this. When you look at the teams that were in the playoff this last year, and that's obviously Notre Dame's goal now every year, after making it to the title game, getting beat by Ohio State, Can you win a national title without a true playmaker in the middle of your defense at D tackle? Yes or no? No fine lines here, maybe this, maybe that. Yes or no? I say no. Now, Notre Dame, unfortunately for them, lost Rylie Mills, and that really hurt them going into the Ohio State game. I grant you that. But even if they had Mills, was it enough? I still say no. You need to be able to rotate multiple guys that are going to play in the NFL at D tackle. And they still have some good players and some guys that are developing, and one guy that I think is underappreciated in Donovan 𝐓𝐡𝐞, but they also need to find somebody else that's a playmaker. So they went out, to their credit. Notre Dame gets a good player from Louisville, and Jared Dawson. I think he's a guy that will probably play some in the NFL, make the roster for a couple of years. Whether or not you want to call him a pure playmaker at the major college level late in the season against top offensive linemen is debatable, but I think he will be Notre Dame's best defensive lineman this next year from a consistency standpoint of getting in the backfield. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 is pretty good too, and he had 4.5 sacks as a rotational player, but I still think that Dawson's proven ability, he was at Louisville, he'll be the best guy at that. It's debatable, those two. The key is Gabriel Rubio coming back. Is he healthy? Is he ready? He's going to be a fifth-year senior. He's the kid out of St. Louis. It's been a good player at Notre Dame, but he's had some health concerns throughout his career. He has to stay healthy for them. And then you get into the big question marks. They're bringing in Elijah Hughes, who has a lot of talent, ironically, from Southern Cal, their arch rival, but he didn't play a ton for them. He's 6'3", 290. He's a kid that's going to be a third-year player out of Virginia. Can he develop? Coach Washington's going to have a lot to work with in terms of physical skills, but do they fit the defense? How does Coach Ash try to use them? Are they going to play more 4-man, more 3-man? There's a lot of questions there. But one thing you can't argue, they still don't have that bona fide, no doubt about it, top 3-round defensive tackle. I don't think you're going to win a national title without one. So in my opinion, while it would be great to go get 2 D tackles out of the portal and just however it falls, so be it, you got to look at it from a perspective, go get an elite player. If you can. Somebody's going to be in the portal. Maybe you'll have to bid and overpay, but overpaying to win a title is okay. Ask Ohio State fans if they mind, and I'm sure their coffers are overrunning from support after winning a championship. And to that point, even if Jason Onyé, who has come back, and it sounds like he's going to be making some noise, Sevillano is a possibility, 𝐓𝐴𝐸 is a possibility. All of this stuff is maybe. When are you going to be able to say as a program that it's definite? Our defensive tackle situation is ready, not only as starters, but with depth. Notre Dame is not in that spot right now, and I think to better situate themselves, they're probably going to have to overspend for an elite player in the portal, if there's even one available. Probably will be. But when I say overspend, I'm talking $2-3 million probably for a year rental. If it gets you a title, or at least gets you in that conversation to be back in the Final Four, this is the last year you're going to have Jeremiah Love, is it worth it? Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have somebody that's proven, that's played in the Big Ten or SEC, Big 12, whatever it is, than somebody like, no offense, but maybe 𝐓𝐴𝐸 makes a big jump. Maybe Brendan Vernon does. I don't know which guy it might be, but I would not want to go into fall camp with their current roster and expect the defensive tackle position to be ready to take on Ohio State again or Penn State or whatever. They need another defensive tackle that is a flat-out first, second, or third round pick in the NFL draft. That's my opinion. We'll see what Notre Dame does. And quite frankly, again, we don't know how many players are going to be available at D tackle. Is there any other spot that Notre Dame could use some help? It's possible. Again, receivers, maybe. You might take a tight end. Absolutely. That's maybe another blocker. I think that they'll be in a pretty good spot with Raridan. I think he'll be their starter and he'll go on to the NFL after this year. Again, like some other guys, he's got to stay healthy. And they got some pass rushers coming back. If everything stays on track through spring and all the things are going good there, I don't think they'll take another pass rusher, but it wouldn't hurt to shake the trees a little bit. You could never have enough guys coming off the edge. You know, Bryce Young and some of these guys, these younger players, that's great. But they've got 2 major players, Boubacar Traore in particular, coming off major knee injuries. That's rough, man. You just don't know how ready they're going to be. So they should at least entertain it. And then finally, if you look at their roster overall, if you can get somebody that can cover, and I know Notre Dame secondary is pretty darn good, you should also entertain it. How much does it cost? Is it a guy that fits your program? They should at least look at safety and corner just because that's a spot you got to look at every year. If you're not good in the secondary, you have no shot to win a championship. Notre Dame is no different. They dominated last year on defense a lot of the times just by playing man. You have to replace Watts. Xavier Watts was the leading interception guy over the last 2 years in college football. You're not going to get rid of all his production or replace all his production with one or two players. And they've done some good things in recruiting. I think Schuler's a good player, but you're going to have to replace him, and you're losing Benjamin Morrison too. That's a lot. Maybe a guy in the transfer portal will help you. Doesn't necessarily have to be a guy that's flat out elite, but if it can help balance your depth chart, it should be something you should at least consider. We'll see what Marcus Freeman and the Fighting Irish do, but that's a really interesting situation because there's very few guys I think they would take a look at. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest news. If you would, hit that like button, that notification bell, and subscribe to this podcast. Really appreciate it. Everybody have a good one. Talk to you soon.